Most people never question central banks, not because they trust them, but because they were never taught to look there in the first place. Central banks don't make noise. They don't run campaigns. They don't appear on ballots. And yet, quietly, they control the price of your money, the direction of your economy, and the value of everything you spend your life working for. They can create wealth with a keystroke, or erase it just as easily. And the strangest part, they don't really answer to you. This is the story of how central banks came to dominate modern finance, not as neutral referees, but as powerful players in a system they helped design. A story of hidden authority, financial engineering, and an illusion we've been taught to call stability. And once you understand where this all began, you'll never look at your paycheck, your debt, or your savings the same way again. So let's rewind. It's 1694. England is broke. The Crown has just finished an expensive war against France. The treasury is empty. Taxes aren't enough. The state needs money fast. So something new is created. Not a bank as we think of banks today, not an institution designed to serve citizens. It exists for one purpose: to lend money to the government and profit from it. That institution becomes the Bank of England. And that's the real birth of the modern central bank. Not as a stabilizer, not as a protector of the public, but as a lender to the state. Once that door opened, it never closed. By the 19th century, similar models spread across Europe. Central banks emerged with special privileges, often privately owned. They issued currency. They controlled reserves. They rescued governments in crisis. And in return, they gained something far more valuable than interest: power. Enormous power, often without meaningful democratic oversight. The United States took a much rockier path. Americans deeply distrusted centralized financial power. The first and second banks of the United States were both shut down after fierce political battles over corruption and elitism. For much of the 19th century, the U.S. had no central bank at all. Instead, it had chaos. Private currencies, speculative bubbles, financial manias, violent panics that wiped people out overnight. Then came 1907, a crisis so severe that one man, J.P. Morgan, had to personally organize a rescue to prevent total collapse. That moment terrified Washington, and 6 years later, in 1913, Congress passed the Federal Reserve Act. The Federal Reserve was sold as a solution, a decentralized network of regional banks, a safety net, a stabilizer. In reality, it became something else. A central authority with immense power over interest rates, credit, and the money supply. And this is where the story gets uncomfortable, because the Federal Reserve isn't quite a government agency, but it isn't fully private either. Its board is appointed by the president, but its member banks are privately owned. It isn't funded by taxes. It funds itself through interest on government debt and fees charged to banks. It operates largely outside public view, making decisions that affect millions of people who never get a vote. So the question becomes unavoidable. who does it really serve? Officially, the Federal Reserve has a dual mandate: maximum employment and stable prices. But in reality, its actions often protect the very institutions it was created to regulate. Look at 2008. The Fed didn't just cut rates. It created trillions, bailed out investment banks, absorbed toxic debt, and propped up asset prices. Then 2020 happened, and it did it again. Corporate bonds were bought. Liquidity flooded the system. Emergency programs appeared overnight. Markets recovered fast. Asset prices exploded, and everyone else was told to wait. This is what most people miss. Central banks don't just manage the economy, they shape it. They choose winners and losers. When rates fall, stocks rise. When rates rise, markets break. When money is printed, asset holders get richer. When policy tightens, ordinary people pay more for mortgages, credit cards, and basic survival. Despite claims of independence, central banks are deeply tied to the financial system. Executives move between Wall Street and central banking. Policies favor large institutions. The language is technical and vague, designed to keep the public at a distance. Since 2008, near zero rates and quantitative easing became normal. Asset prices soared: stocks, real estate, commodities. For asset owners, it was a golden age. For everyone else, inflation disguised as prosperity. Here's the hard truth. The modern financial system isn't designed to free you. It's designed to keep you moving. Central banks reward debt, punish saving, and call it stability. When the system breaks, they save the system, not the people. So see clearly. Central banks aren't gods. They're players. And protecting yourself is up to you. If this gave you a new perspective, hit subscribe. History has the answers. I'll show you where to look.